if you're standing on principle, you are bringing the validity to the party. Stop letting other people say, oh yeah, we need guys like you while we go get elected. No. No. It's like right out of Atlas Shrugged, where the engines of the world are creating all the productivity and all the life in the world, and then the looters are coming and cashing in on that. Greetings, programs. I am Patrick Smith. This is Disenthrall. Welcome to the show. Today I have my partner in victimless crime, Kaysen, with us. And today...
Greetings, gametes.
And today I wanted to talk about what I tried to talk to you about yesterday, which I did like this thing. I just recorded myself talking about something that I was thinking about in the moment. And then after I was done, I listened to it back and I was like, why don't I just post that and see what people think? And I did, and I think it was pretty cool. And so I wanted to let Kaysen hear that because he hasn't seen it yet, and then add some additional thoughts that I've conclusions that I've come to after that. So let's start with the video.
Well, it's like I never say there's no such thing as a necessary evil. So maybe let me talk on one side, and then I'll probably destroy my own argument. So I would say that. One side of the argument would be to say that we need the party because it's a great way to reach new people, to bring them closer, to bring them one step down the path, right? And I think it does do that. I think that's true. I think that's happened. I've met a lot of people that I've brought closer to a principled position since I got involved. So there was low-hanging fruit that the LP grabbed for me and allowed me to talk to. The problem, though, now talking on the other side, is you see this shit going on at national. I mean, it happens at state level too, but like there's a property rights resolution that this Joshua Smith guy just put forward that basically says, private property is part and parcel of libertarian principle. And it looks like it's pretty much, I think it's already failed. It's not final, but there's enough no votes that it can't pass. So the only way it can pass is if some of the no's swap to yeses. So because it's a party, because you can't, it's not a private club, you can't control who can be a member and who can't. It's a political thing, which, as a rule, because it's politics, and because politics, has a control over people's lives, no party can really disassociate from people that it doesn't want to associate with. No one can, the LP cannot, straight up ban, block, kick out, expel anyone, right? It all comes down to a vote, and the vote determines the principle. So it's self-defeating in that it cannot be the party of principle. Principle cannot exist without the freedom of association. If you can't disassociate from people, you can't be the party of principle. So it's a logical impossibility. So to say that we need the LP to help usher people towards freedom, to gather and create low-hanging fruit, to say that is like saying, okay, we have to have a small tumor, and we have to constantly fight to keep that tumor small. Well, oh my God, what argument did I just make? It sounds like I just made the constitutionalists' argument. Well, we need government. We need a little cancer. We need a little bit of government, and we just have to constantly fight, and we have to be constantly vigilant to make sure that it's, we can drown it in a bath. We can drown it in a bathtub or whatever. So to say that we need cancer to cure cancer, yeah, I am now, especially this past month or so, I'm really questioning whether it even is something that is quote unquote needed. Okay. So that was just kind of off the top of my head thoughts. It wasn't like some speech monologue thing that I scripted out and, had put a lot of thought into yet. It was just what I was feeling in the moment about what I've been experiencing, having been involved in the LP for this amount of time. Did you have any thoughts or comments on that before I kind of add and before I pile onto it?
Yeah, more of a reaffirmation in case somebody hasn't heard it before. Whenever people talk about we need a party, who make political change, they, in general, have this idea that if you can just reduce the amount of violations that government is forcing upon people, that it's a net positive. Which, from a practical standpoint, yes. But if you advocate for just a little bit of tax here and just a little bit of violations of people's property there, but yet I repeat myself, it's still evil, even if it's a smaller evil than what people are used to. And I think that's an important thing. You actually, I think it was you that came up with the idea that people view spectrum, good and evil in like a spectrum of like more evil or more good. But you've created this idea of a binary switch of it is either good or it is evil. Now, once it's on the evil spectrum and it's violating somebody's property, somebody's consent, then you can talk about the gradations of is it a smaller evil or is it a heinous evil? And I think that's very instructive to people.
I usually say evil is the on-off switch and good is the subjective spectrum. So like something is either you can either attack somebody or you can't. But if it's not an evil thing, well, now it's like a subjective opinion of how good or how not good it is. Anyway, so the thing, so I had, following that video that I put out, I had this conversation with somebody that has been in the LP much longer than me, and recently changed, I guess, their mind about the whole thing. And they've been talking to me about it and kind of pushing me on some of the positions that I've talked about in this video. And one of the things that came to mind was, I've talked to you about this before. I'll quickly run over it again for people that haven't heard it. But one of the tragedies of the human limited longevity is the wisdom and knowledge and life experience that is lost when humans die. Knowledge of what they were successful at and how to be successful at things, knowledge about how to not do things and what to not do if you want to be successful. And one of the biggest applications of that is political activism. You have people that go, so the limited longevity of a human that is politically motivated. You've got the energy and the willpower to change the world around you. You know, that might, get its start maybe around 20, 25, whatever. It probably hits its running stride 30 to 40 to 50. And then I would think that after that, for most people, it starts to fade off and you start to just like, not give up is the wrong word, but some people, I mean, it's just like, okay, look, I tried. I spent my whole life trying to improve the world and work inside of this thing called politics. And I have the life experience of sinking 20 years of my human action and my human willpower and just giving it all I can to fix the world. And I got nothing. And so I'm done. I gave it my all. I've paid my dues. I'm going to leave it to the future generations, and I'm going to go and live out my sort of twilight years in peace, not trying to worry about this anymore. It's somebody else's turn, or whatever they say. And so a new human comes into existence, and they don't have these lessons, and they're indoctrinated their entire life that the way to achieve change in the world is to work within the democratic system to achieve that change, to join a party, to influence that party, to pass the policies that they want changed, to make the world how you want it made into. And so a new life, having none of the wisdom and experience of hundreds of years of people previous to them, trying that, sinking their entire lifetime into that, and getting nothing out of it, is not part of their paradigm. It's not part of their universe. So they just do what they're told is supposed to work, because that's what they're told. And so another 20 years of their life, 20, 30 years of a human life is lost, sunk into this system again, and so on and so on and so on, generation after generation after generation, because that wisdom of the futility of this stuff is lost. So I was picturing a world where the Libertarian Party doesn't exist, right? So just as a thought experiment, do we need the LP? Well, let's picture what it would be like without it. Okay, so we have somebody that spends 20 years in party politics, right? They They join the Republican or they join the Democrat Party, and they work really hard for 15, 20 years to try and achieve change. They realize it's not working, and so they go looking for other solutions. What do they find? Well, there's no Libertarian Party. So maybe they are forced at that moment, they are forced into the realization that there is no solution in party politics. And so at that moment, after that 15 or 20 years, when they've made that realization, they realize that it's not the way to achieve change, and they start looking for alternative ideas like voluntarism, like principled libertarianism that teaches that government does not rule with the just consent of the governed. So hitting that wall of not having an alternative might get people, I mean, I'm sure it would make some people what? I'm sure it would make some people, just give up and stop there, but it would also make other people maybe look for other solutions, or maybe realize that, hey, the system isn't working for me. I don't consent to how it's working, and I can't change it. They haven't given me the tools to change it. But because the LP exists, they say, oh, okay, well, I can satisfy my indoctrination, how I was brought up. I can work within the system using this other tool, this other path to change it in the way that it should be changed. And so they get involved, and they spend 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10, 15 years, again, like right back into this system, right back into this thing that literally produces no meaningful change. So any time they have left in their life is now sort of sunk into this red herring, this straw man of a solution. So maybe the LP existing is a bad thing. I've never heard somebody make that case before. What do you think about that? Like, I've just never heard of anybody make the use case for the LP doesn't exist. Would that be better? Question mark.
Well, I think we could conduct a scientific test by asking people what's the number one thing you regret, doing or not doing on their deathbed. And I wouldn't expect somebody on their deathbed to be like, oh, I wish I had just formed one more caucus. I wish I'd handed out one more flyer. I wish I went to one more national convention. I wish I visited one more random person's doorstep. I don't foresee that being in anyone's top 10 list of things that they wish they had done or not done.
So I have to leave that as an open question, because we're not in a world where that is ever going to be a thing. The LP is probably always going to exist in some form. So that's just a thought experiment to sort of, for me, it allows me to sort of emotionally divest myself from all this stupid stuff happening in the LP, where the commies, the literal anarcho-communists and literal anarcho-socialists are literally trying to gain traction in the party. Like, if it was a valid, legitimate way of achieving anything in the world, then I would probably want to be emotionally tied up in the success or failure of that solution. But I don't feel that pressure to be so tied up in that at this point, is what I'm trying to say. And
well,
go ahead.
Even today, I spoke with a gentleman who came to my door, and he, in all earnesty, was trying to convince me to vote for the Republican candidate for Texas governor. And I just wish I had asked him. I was actually talking with Katie the Keeper today about, I wish I had asked him, your time is precious here on Earth. It's kind of like a YOLO lifestyle, because once you get swallowed up by that hospital bed at the end of the life, you're not getting out of it. Is this really what you want to be doing? Do you really want to be sweating in the Texas heat, knocking on people's doors saying, hello, are you voting for Greg Abbott today? I really don't think that's what he would be doing if he recognized the value of his time and his life energy being poured into something that, if I had just asked, do you feel more free?
Yeah.
Are you more free?
And the lesson that I think we both kind of got a glimpse of at that Texas LP convention was just how much human effort really is sunk into this. And a lot of these people are people that have already spent years of their life sinking their effort into the R's or the D's. And now they have been told that this is the actual solution, and so they're sinking more of their life into it. And it's just like, it's cringy for me because, yeah. Okay.
I'll briefly touch on something here just because you mentioned the Texas LP. Whenever we were at the state convention, I didn't participate. I was an alternate, so in other words, I was useless. I didn't participate in the Robert's Rules cavalcade that was going on. But what I did do is hang out with the vendors and talk with those people. And I spoke with the gentleman who I guess most people would call Republican light, like he's being disenfranchised by the Republican Party. He's not enjoying his time there, so he's looking for a new solution. And the great irony of it is libertarians say, hey, we want to welcome people into this big tent. We're going to da-da-da-da-da. But he reported to me that he had experienced a lot of hostilities from people who knew that he was, a registered Republican and da-da-da-da. He was just coming to check it out. And I think in that, 5-6 hour conversation that I had with him, that was probably the best use of that time that could have happened. If the 300 some odd people instead spent their time doing activist type things, whether it's creating a video or going out and talking to somebody or doing something in their community, I would posit that would be a far more useful spending of time that actually results in people changing the way that they behave, the way that they think, the way that they feel, their actual lives and existence, rather than some mashuganas about, I vote to change the wording on this phrase to be more inclusive of these other people. It boggles my brain the amount of human capital it's Freudian slip for what's coming up next, poured into this.
Yes, absolutely. That was probably the most... Oh my God. That was probably the most useful thing that happened at that entire convention, actually, aside from me meeting a lot of cool people. So, the last thing I wanted to mention...
I enjoyed hanging out with all the people. That was probably the best part of it. Like, getting to know the people that came with me and getting to know more people. That was a far more effective usage of time than any of the Robert's Rules stuff that was going on in any of the actual conventioning, what do they call it? Party business.
Yes, I absolutely agree. While we're talking about the LP, the last thing I wanted to mention was kind of like what came out of my follow-on discussions that I had after I released that video. I have heard so many times since you and I kicked off the Not Governor campaign, I love that you are here doing this. We need principled philosophers like you in our party to remind us of why we're here and to remind us and to show us and to hold us to what's right. The actual libertarian principle, to teach us the actual libertarian principles. And we also need people that are practical and know how to pragmatically implement the principles that you teach us. So we need the philosophers and the principled people to monitor, to help forward the principles, and we need the pragmatists to actually be effective in politics. So we need both of you. So thanks for doing what you're doing. We need you there. We're not going to vote for you, but we want you to be there. And I've heard this so many times, and most of the time I just kind of took it as a compliment. Look, they appreciate the principles that I'm trying to stand for, and they wanted to let me know that they do appreciate it. But they don't think it's practical, they don't think it'll be electable, so they need to keep doing what they're doing. But they don't want me to leave, because they also like what I'm doing, just not in with the libertarian name beside it on a ballot.
I need some philosopher's aura real quick before something bad happens to me. I just need you to hang around for a little bit, maybe like rub me on the forehead, and wish me some good virtue in the world. I think that's effectively what it boils down to. What was interesting to me is at county convention, I was kind of I guess most people would say an asshole, in that they had the ability to ask whoever people were trying to be elected. You had like 2 minutes to ask them a couple questions, and I didn't know many of the people, so I wanted to use the 2 minutes to find out whether or not they would ever use political office to damage somebody else's property. So I asked very plainly, do you believe taxation is theft? Would you, if elected, cash a paycheck that is paid for with stolen money? And the overwhelming majority was yes, and I said the follow-up is why. I'm poor. Okay, So what you're describing to me is you have a principle that you're not willing to follow, which makes you unprincipled. And you don't have the pragmatic solutions to go out and make money in the market, so you're going to steal it from other people in order for you to put your highfalutin thoughts onto other people. That was frustrating. I actually ended up getting the nickname Noda. Like, that was my name.
I would be pretty freaking proud of that if I were you.
So it's funny because after the fact, like, everybody came up to me, like, during it, they were just like, oh, this guy asking all these questions that everyone should be asking. Like, are you
boilerplate libertarian questions? Yes.
That should be, like, the only question. Yeah. Would you initiate the use of force on other people to accomplish the social good that you think ought to be happening in the world? And the answer should be, fuck no, I would not. So that's, like, the only question that should be asked. But then after the fact, it was like, oh, hey, I'm really, really glad you were here to ask all these questions because I was a little scared to do that. And I'm like, I wonder why, because no one does it. Like,
yeah,
that was an intriguing experience. So yeah, we just need to have Philosopher's Aura. We can bottle that. We can sell it. We can make a ton of money, Patrick. Make people feel good without them actually having to do anything.
No. But where I was going though is it's insidious. It's a bad thing. Here's why. Let me pitch this to you. This just kind of hit me today, and the longer I've stewed on it, the more angry I have been about people telling me this over the past year. They know that they need us as principled, hardcore, hardline philosophers in their party because it is people like us that give the party its validity. We give the party its differentiator from the other parties. We make this party better and different than other parties. They need us for that. But also, they don't want us on the headlines. What I'm saying is that they need us to give the party its good name. Its good name comes from us. It doesn't come from the political side. It doesn't come from the politicians' side of the party. It comes from the principled side. It comes from the philosophers and the economic side of the party. So they need us here so that they can stand by us, so that they can virtue signal using the good name that we build. They can say, yes, us fellow libertarians are very principled. Check out Patrick Smith and vote for me. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, without the philosophers and the economists standing on principle and doing the hard work and the dangerous, socio-politically, interpersonally dangerous work of standing on principle and making shows like this where we talk about difficult subjects like the police being generally evil in an open way. We do that dangerous work. The politician side of this doesn't. They just run campaigns and ask for money.
We slap our names all over that.
But we bring the value to the libertarian name that they then cash in on. That upsets me. If you are going to be a libertarian and you are going to run for office in the Libertarian Party, then get your own validity. Get your own principles. Don't ask me to stick around to prop up your campaign with my valid principles. So I've been.
It make Patrick angry. Very angry.
I've been salty.
Wait, green screen doesn't work like that. I'm gonna put that back.
Yeah, you just faded out of it.
Red with anger.
Angry Patrick is ghost.
Yeah.
No, so
as I get angrier, you don't know that I'm here.
It's like a reverse Hulk. I fade out of existence thing. Yeah, so I wanted to get that rant off my chest, and I wanted to put it out there so I could see what other people think about it. Because if you're standing on principle, you are bringing the validity to the party. Stop letting other people say, oh yeah, we need guys like you while we go get elected. No. It's like right out of Atlas Shrugged, where the engines of the world are creating all the productive, all the productivity and all the life in the world, and then the looters are coming and cashing in on that and expecting them to keep slaving behind their engines for the looters. That's what's happening in the Libertarian Party. Do you see?
Now I'm angry too.
Does this
Thanks
make
a lot,
sense?
Patrick. I'm gonna have bad dreams tonight about being at convention, but actually not being allowed to leave. So if they're not, if the people in the Libertarian Party are not following libertarian principles, what is the end goal? Because they say it's practical to get elected, to get more than, 5% or whatever the vote in order to stay on the ballot. So next time we can stay on the ballot. So next time we can stay on the ballot. If their goal is to get elected, there are two options to do that. It's called the Democrats and the Republicans. They're both unethical, and they both support the use of force in order to accomplish social change. But that's the practical way to do it, right? So it would be like a car mechanic saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna fix your engine," and then he goes in, with tools and whatever the hell mechanics use, and then your car still doesn't start. What is the end goal here? What is the end goal, Patrick?
The end goal of the LP is different depending on who you're talking to at the moment, right? You have people that legitimately...
Well, what is the objective evidence point towards for the majority of the LP?
I don't understand the question.
I need a philosopher to define the meaning of the Libertarian Party.
Like I said, the last valid argument I had for it, I kind of dispelled, was that it was a place to let people step to in between R&D statism and anarchy. But the thing that we led in the beginning of this video, I think, is at least a possible argument for it not being necessary and potentially being something that slows people down, because it gives them an option to get involved with and waste another 5 or 10 years of their limited lifespan. Please, this video, I wanted people to realize that this video, especially, all the videos, but this one especially, I want feedback. I want this to be a conversation, because I'm thinking of this stuff yesterday and today, and I'm putting it out there for you guys to comment on and to respond to, and to challenge me on if you disagree, or to challenge yourself if I've made some decent arguments here. So thanks for watching.